Hello, Safe sweethearts. Welcome to another episode of our Coming For You podcast. This is going to be episode 13, but it's also part 2. We had a conversation about culture shock on our previous episode. So now we are having another conversation on how someone now can adapt to a new culture and also can maintain culture of their origin. Because on the previous episode, on part 1, I was with my friend Olawole, and obviously we are sitting down again for the second time to have a conversation about adaptation. And now that we are in Europe, how are we adapting to a new culture here in Europe, and also how are we maintaining our African culture? Olawole, how are you?
I'm good. I'm glad to be here today. The last episode was amazing, and I'm actually glad to be here this time around.
Okay, so just to let you, CFI sweetheart, know, we are discussing this topic because we believe that you are going to learn something out of this conversation, and because adapting to a new culture can be a rewarding and yet a challenging experience, you know. So we are going to tell you how we transitioned and how we effectively adapted maybe to European culture, and also how we keep our African culture while we are living in Europe. Maybe let me ask you, Olawole, was it very hard for you to adapt to a new culture?
Not really. I wouldn't say it's hard for me, because one thing I did is I educated myself. I did like research and try to learn about the culture and trying to understand their custom, their tradition, you know, their beliefs, their values. So those things help me to like get myself into the Irish ways. So I won't say adapting is like it gives me an issue.
Okay, I think the same applied to me. You know, for me, something that made me realize that adapting was not difficult for me is that I had an open-minded attitude, you know? Meaning that I was willing to learn and I was willing to adapt to something new as long as it was not negatively impacting me. So, and also for me as a person, I am always very curious and receptive to new experiences and perspectives, you know. I think it's because maybe in the past I've been a journalist or something, but I'm not shy in asking questions. I'm not shy talking to people. Like if I see people are welcoming and they are good people and I feel comfortable about a certain group, it means I show up myself as an open-minded individual.
And I also think, you know, like if the country you're in has like a different language, then it's very good to like, you know, try to learn the language. But I'm actually lucky to be in a country where the primary language is English, so I don't have to, though they have a local language which is the Irish language. But you know, if you find yourself in like a country that have a different language, then you have to try and learn. Though I know most people are not prompt to learning, like they just want to stick with what they know, but it's very important for you to learn their language for you to be able to interact with them.
Yeah, I quite agree. On the issue of language, you know, I just remembered on our previous episode, part 1, we discussed about how difficult it was for us, you know, to adapt to speaking English. I mean, I am speaking for myself because I'm coming from Tanzania, where Swahili was my national language, and that I was not speaking English all the time. So the Irish people have their own ways of using language. For example, I remember one day my friends were telling me, let's go out for a pint. And I was like, a pint? I was like, what do you mean pint? But simply they meant we have to go out to grab a glass of beer. So it means it's the way the Irish people use their language. They have their own unique vocabularies. I mean, I find them unique. Not all of them, but some of them I find them unique. And I find that the Irish people are the ones that are using those vocabularies. When I went to England, for example, of course they have their own vocabularies and they have their own ways of using English. So that's their culture. So you adapt to it. So next time you hear someone talks about pint, you are able to understand.
Yeah, I also think, you know, building relationships too, it's a good one, because if you find yourself working in a place, it's very good to connect. You don't have to limit yourself to maybe because your other colleagues are black. You don't have to limit yourself because you guys came from Africa together. You have to like mix up with the locals, you know, at least from there you'll be able to like have an insight into the culture, and this will help you like practice the language they speak if the country has a different language, and also like to provide a support network. So building relationship is a very good form of adaptation.
I quite agree. Building relationships is very important. I also think that, having that character of listening and observing is very important. It helps you because when you pay attention to how people behave, interact and communicate in the new culture, you are able to learn and adapt to that new particular culture.
Yeah.
When I came here, for example, I was observing their body languages, their gestures, their tone, voices, like how do they speak? Do they yell? When they speak, are they calm? And also listening actively is very important because you can't have a conversation without having listening skills. And when we say actively listening, it means you listen to understand. Don't just listen to argue. Try to calm down and listen to them, understand them, and then the conversation will flow.
Yeah. Like you also need to respect the tradition of the new culture you find yourself, even if they differ from your own. You have you just have to be aware of how they dress and the appropriate behavior in different situations. That's very important too.
100% Olawole, because one thing I just noticed that it is Irish custom. For example, they make sure they hold the door for everybody to pass and then they will just proceed. That's one thing that I really observed, and I feel like it's their custom because I haven't seen one individual. It's like majority of Irish people would hold the door for you. That's one thing that I've observed.
Yeah, I think adjusting to behavior, like it's actually another way of adaptation. This can be like communication styles, like eating habits. You don't have to like stick with what you know. You have to always blend in with the new culture.
Yeah, when you were talking about that, I just remembered that nowadays I also hold door for people, just like how Irish people do, because I learned that, I observed it, and I say I didn't see anything wrong with holding door for one another. I was like, okay, this is very important. So if I was the first one to pass and then somebody comes, and then I can just hold the door still and then they can pass and then we are fine. So that's how you adapt to the behavior of the people. That is very positive. It's not like we are saying we have adapted everything and we are trying to blend into everything. No, some things don't even matter to me. They might matter to them. I will respect everything for them, but the things that I feel like they will help me to live in harmony with the community in which I live now, it means I have to adapt them. And also, actually, there are so many things that I also teach them about Africa. If they ask me about how we greet one another, if they ask me about my food, if they ask me about, I also explain to them and then they respect it.
In addition to that, like I just want you to know that cultural adaptation takes time. You have to be, you have to stay patient and flexible. Be patient with yourself as you navigate through, the situations and the emotion you face. You just have to stay patient and flexible.
Yeah, I think that's a very valid point. And actually, you say that very well, Olawole, because there is culture sensitivity sometimes. So you need to be aware of potential culture differences that might lead to misunderstandings or offense. For example, allow me to stick to the to the custom of holding door to one another. So if it happens that you open the door and then somebody is behind you and you don't hold the door, and that door bangs someone, it means that person is going to find you very disrespectful. Some people will be very offended and they will feel like you don't have manners and stuff like that. That's why it's very important to be aware of cultural sensitivity. That's another point that we should consider.
I also think engaging in local activities, events, festivals and concerts is very important in adapting. Like for example, in Highland there's a very big event, St. Patrick's Day. It's done once in a year. Like it's so big that everybody comes out to have fun, to mingle and all. So like trying to fit in yourself in that kind of event is a very good way to socialize, to meet people, to learn, more about their culture. Adapting, you have to really immerse yourself in engaging in activities locally.
Yeah, okay. I think also you also have to understand that maintaining your identity is very important because, for example, I'm coming from Africa. I am an African. I am a Tanzanian, and also I'm coming from the northern Tanzania. I am Chaga, so I have my own practice and customs that are coming from the north. So I have my own local language too. I speak Chaga language. So while I'm adapting to an Irish culture, I try to live in harmony with other people. My culture is at the forefront of everything that I do. I don't compromise. I try to remember where I come from every now and then because I know where I come from and I know what I represent as a person. I simply know who I am. That's to say that I maintain my identity the way it is.
And one thing I always keep in mind is, the more you learn, the more you know. For example, the more you learn about the culture of where you are, the better equipped you will be to integrate into it. So I would say, if you want to adapt, you have to stay curious, keep asking questions and seeking to understand things. And also, don't be afraid to make mistake. If you unintentionally offend someone or make a cultural blunder, use it as a learning opportunity and apologize if necessary. So you just have to learn from mistake.
Okay, yeah, I think that's a very good lesson, Olawole. When you were speaking, something just came quickly in my mind. Some things that are here may not necessarily be acceptable to me, for example. So it's not like I'm going to be so mad, I'm going to hate everyone, I'm going to complain, I'm going to what? No, I stick to my culture and I focus on the positive aspect of my culture adaptation journey, because it's a journey. Actually, it's not even a short journey. It's a long journey because remember, you are in a new place, new environment, new geographical location, has a new climatic condition. When we speak about culture, we know that culture is a totality way of life. So I'm coming from an African totality way of life, and now I'm here in Europe. I'm now witnessing the European totality way of life. So one thing that helped me a lot and one thing that assisted me the most is my positivity. So up to now, I'm so positive. Things that I feel like I can adapt, it's okay, I can adapt them. Things I feel like it's a no for me, even though it's not necessary for me to tell someone no, but I know that it's not something that maybe I believe in, it's not something that I'm interested in. I'll let it be and I'll stay positive and I'll respect it for them. That is the key. When you see some other people practicing their traditions, their customs, their culture, you don't panic. You have to relax and respect it for them. For example, I met a lot of people who told me they do not believe in God. But for me, because I believe in God, I don't panic, I don't hate them, I don't segregate them, even though I ask them questions, because obviously they also ask me questions that which God? Are you sure? They ask me such questions. And also for me, I ask them the same question, that are you sure there is no God? So it becomes a very interesting opportunity to just have a conversation and understand one another. So you stay positive and move on with your life. So I encourage everyone that is also going through the same situation, living in a new place, trying to adapt new customs and new culture. Just don't worry, relax and be positive. That's it. So Olawole, are you positive yourself? Have you been positive?
Yeah, I've been positive because I try to embrace the challenges as opportunity. So, and it has always been like a growth, from me. So I've always been staying positive. Yeah.
Okay, that's very good. Thank you so much for those who have been listening from the beginning of this episode to the end of this episode. We hope that you've learned some few things about adapting to a new culture. And yeah, I encourage you to stay positive, as I said, and we hope that you are going to be well. And one thing that I can also add before I close this episode is that always lead with empathy. In life, when you are able to put yourself in a position of somebody else, it means the possibility of harming someone or offending someone reduces. So yeah, that's all I can say for sure. That's the end of our episode. Thank you so much, Olawole, for taking your time a second time. By the way, you are our first guest that has come twice in this podcast. podcast. It's such a blessing. We don't take you for granted. Thank you so much, and I hope to have you the third time.
I'm actually looking forward to that.
All right, thank you very much. And for those who have subscribed to our YouTube channel, we thank you very much. And for those who have not yet subscribed to our YouTube channels, let me ask you one question. What are you doing? Please do so. Do subscribe, because it validates our work and it encourages us a lot to produce more episodes like this. Thank you so much again, and bye bye. Ciao.
Because nobody does better like us. We got no money, but always we happy. We show our swag everywhere we party. Come join us, show your swag. Because nobody